back to another video, and today I'll be giving you 9 tips for you controller players out there in Apex to at least keep up with M1K regardless of the fact that we can't move and loot, tap strafe and jitter aim, but we have aim assist. But there are still things that we can improve upon to get better on the sticks. The first tip is your sensitivity. Your sensitivity on controller is really important. It depicts how you play and what is most comfortable for you, which is why I always tell people to find the correct sensitivity for them and what's most comfortable for them. Don't play the sensitivity that your favorite streamer or YouTuber uses. You should always use the sensitivity that is best for you. If you use a streamer or YouTuber sensitivity, whether it be ALCs or regular, if it is comfortable for you, then fine, but I still don't recommend that you use other people's sensitivity. You should always try to find your own sense. If you use a streamer or YouTuber sensitivity, you should try to use it as a stepping stone to find yours. You should try and tweak that sensitivity to your liking. Try turning down or up the dead zone, response curve, and outer threshold for your liking. Whether you want to have a super sensitive ALC or a low one, you should always try to use other people's sensitivity. You should always try to use other people's sensitivity if you are going to use them as a stepping stone for your sensitivity. If you're going to use other people's sensitivity, as I said before, multiple times. I'm not going to draw out this part of the video because every Apex YouTuber says it over and over again, straight to the important part. The second tip is crosshair placement. This generally refers to placing your crosshair on where you think an enemy might be coming from or might be. It might sound simple, but it's a lot deeper than it actually is. Most players have their crosshair placed on the ground because Apex is a BR game. You have to find loot to make sure you're ready for a battle, but even after finding your preferred loadout, your crosshair is still centered down on the ground scanning for loot instead of the center of your screen. By placing your crosshair at the center of the screen, this eliminates excess movement of your joystick, because if you're going around the corner and you have your crosshair placed at enemy feet and they have their crosshair placed towards your chest or higher, that first shot that they hit on you is going to change the outcome of that one fight into their favor, because they have proper crosshair placement while you are shooting at their feet getting 9 damage to the Peacekeeper. Yes, it happens to all of us. And then they get full on headshots on you. Proper crosshair placement can lead to you winning more of your fights. With shotguns, you would want to place your crosshair in more of the center of their chest, since that shotguns do damage based on how many pellets actually hit the enemy. For guns with high recoil patterns like the R99, you would also want to place it at their chest as well, since that recoil would eventually shift to their head and then you would have to pull back down. You wouldn't want to aim directly for their head with guns like these because you would miss most of your shots. But with low recoil guns like the R301, it would be better to go for headshots, since that the recoil is more controllable than the others. But keep in mind, this is for close range, since that you have the freedom to pick and choose where you are aiming. For long range fights, you're going to want to be aiming at the center, since that most of your shots are going to be consecutive headshots from long range. Also, instead of looking all over the place, just keep your crosshair centered in one position in these long range fights, especially from where you think danger would most likely be, instead of moving all over the place. If you can focus on taking in information with your full field of view and also focus on placing your crosshair in the correct position, you can get yourself ready for a potential fight and win more of them. The third tip is going to make the second tip sound redundant, but you should focus on the enemy in front of you rather than your crosshair. Crosshair placement is important, but realistically in Apex, no one stands as still like how they do in Valorant, whereas it's a tactical shooter. Apex is literally known for its movement, so being focused on the enemy movement and where they're going, you'll hit more of your shots. It might sound simple in theory, but it's a thing in game you'll have to pay keen attention to. I'll show an example here. Rather than focusing on my crosshair, I focus on the Octane's movement and where he's going to be, because when someone is directly in front of you, you are definitely going to be looking at them and not your crosshair. The fourth tip is to use aim assist to your advantage. Whether the M1K warriors like it or not, in the Twitter or TikTok comment sections saying aim assist is broken, that doesn't change the fact that controller has aim assist, and you should use that to your advantage. You shouldn't be trying to take long range fights, because aim assist doesn't help you in long range fights. Aim assist kicks in at medium to short range. I'm not going to sit here and explain what aim assist is and how it works, because I'm sure majority of the player base in Apex knows what aim assist is. Aim assist is only on controller due to the fact that you have to cross a center point on the joystick to make an input on the controller, unlike M1K. So aim assist is there to help you to track better up close, so it needs to be taking most of your fights up close instead of range fights. The fifth tip is specifically for console players. This is something I have personally done since last year October, and that's to turn down the aim assist values to PC. Believe me when I tell you, it feels a lot better up close when you're using it, because it isn't as strong as the console values. The console's values are 0.6 and PC is 0.4. I know we all had that moment when it snaps to a down player while there is another player in front of you and you just wonder what the hell happened. But overall it does feel better after a couple days because it does take a while to adjust to. I've been playing with the values set to PC since October, as I've said. I've honestly seen improvement in my aim. It isn't for everyone, but it does help a lot in the long run. The sixth tip is knowing the right guns to use on controller. Basically anything that is favorable up close in close range fights, such as the Volt, R99, CAR, Prowler, R301, Flatline, so on and so forth. Because realistically you're going to want to be using guns that are good close range, since that aim assist only works at close range encounters. You don't want to be using snipers or long range weapons because, as I said before, aim assist only kicks in close range encounters. Trying to shoot a longbow, sentinel, kraber, and the bow and other long range weapons aren't as viable as spray weapons or weapons that are better up close. You can use ARs, SMGs, pistols, and shotguns. Those are your best bets. This also goes for gun sights as well. You don't want to be using sniper sights on your weapon. Anything past 4 times, you don't get aim assist with it, especially the kraber. You don't get aim assist at all with the kraber. It's all just raw input. The 7th tip is positioning. Positioning is key as a controller player, since that you are at a disadvantage compared to M&K players. You need to hold your angles correctly, hold height, and you need to have the upper hand on your enemies, regardless of if they are on controller or M&K. I can't explain what good or poor positioning is like without any examples, but good positioning isn't always holding height. Sometimes it's holding the right angle when fighting someone, having the right position in zone. There are many different situations where you will need to be having good positioning. The 8th tip is to move with accuracy and purpose. You can be making unnecessary movements, mainly in fights, because as I've said before, you don't have the same advantages when it comes onto movement as M&K players. There are some controller players who have really good movement, such as ST, Finesse, and Illumi. I'm sure there are others, but let's be real. We can't all do what they do when it comes to zipline jumping consistently and super gliding consistently as well, and many other things, which is why you need to move with accuracy and purpose, so that you don't put yourself at a disadvantage in fights trying to pull off a wall jump when you are better off just strafing or cross spamming to down the enemy. The final tip is to know the weakness of your input, specifically us controller players. Your weakness will and always will be long range fights and movement, so don't try to take long range fights unless you have to, because there will always be scenarios where you'll be in a long range poke battle with the enemy. But if you can avoid it, you should try to. You should always know that our movement isn't as smooth and as responsive on console as on PC due to input delay, if I remember correctly. You can't tap strafe like M&K warriors, and overall the movement isn't as clean as M&K. The reasons for you to know the weaknesses of controllers so that you can better adjust your playing style and also make better loadout choices.